Why is the jiu-jitsu community obsessed with kettlebells? Is it because Joe Rogan preaches about kettlebells? Or is it the thick, bulbous shaft in the hand that works the grip strength? Perhaps it's the cool movements you see people performing with the kettlebells and you say, hey, I gotta do that. Are kettlebells actually a good training tool? Should they be your only training tool? Where did these oddly shaped dumbbells come from? Be answering this and many more questions in the video. Believe it or not, these sacks of weight were actually used to weigh grain in Russia in 1700. Then a Russian Chad grabbed a hold of one of these and started swinging it around for funsies and said, hey, check this out. And other Russian Chad farmers were like, bro, I can do that. And they made a little competition and game. Higher ups in the military saw these farmers throwing around these sacks of weight and said, dang, these boys are getting strong. Maybe we should implement this for our soldiers to create them into superhuman, super physiological human beings that could battle their way through anything. Then enters a man named Pavel Tsatsouline. Probably butchered that name, forgive me, but a Russian man who introduced it to the West in the early 2000s, and it really took off. The cross-shitters got a hold of it, and then it entered a new height of popularity. The benefits of the kettlebell include being able to do explosive movements requiring a little less technique and a little less specific form, in my opinion. For example, the clean and snatch. I have found it easier to perform a clean or a snatch with the kettlebell than on a regular barbell. I think the barbell requires more technique and more precision and more mobility in general than it is to perform these movements on a kettlebell. The kettlebell seems to be an easier implement to move around compared to the barbell and requires you to have less mobility and kind of adapt your form to the kettlebell instead of adapting to the barbell. Another benefit of the kettlebell, in my opinion, is its odd shape. You can use this odd shape in carries in order to create core stability and grip strength. Kettlebell is also a great conditioning tool for muscular endurance at the end of a workout. There are several complexes or movements you can perform in a particular order to fatigue the grip, the hands, the back, and the legs in order to simulate a grappling match. I believe it is the best way to simulate grappling conditioning without doing actual grappling itself. You can perform a variety of reps and get the whole body tired and build that muscular endurance for your grappling matches. Kettlebells can also improve mobility and coordination through movements such as the Turkish get-up and windmills if you're a less mobile grappler and need to work on these aspects of your strength and conditioning. That being said, in terms of building muscle and developing pure power output, kettlebells are not where it's at. First of all, it is very rare to find a kettlebell over 100 pounds. Lifting this would be a great feat. However, let's take, for example, the clean. Cleaning this would be an amazing feat of strength. However, if you could clean a 100-pound kettlebell, chances are you could probably power clean at least 225 pounds. That is over 125 more pounds to clean on a barbell. The barbell clean requires far more motor unit recruitment than the 100-pound kettlebell in this particular example. Furthermore, if you're just using a kettlebell to squat, for example, goblet squats, you could get far more stimulus and far more motor recruitment doing a barbell back squat. All right. Once again, let's use the 100-pound kettlebell example. If all you do is 100-pound kettlebell goblet squats, you could easily replace that with front squats and at the very least put on 135, which is 35 pounds more than the kettlebell goblet squat. And once again, get more motor recruitment and get stronger muscles. What I'm trying to say with these two examples is that unless you're a beginner lifter, you're not getting the necessary stimulus to grow from a goblet squat or a clean from a kettlebell. You simply need heavier weights in order to gain strength and explosiveness in these movements and areas.